pull up and sit still for a second. Let me tell you something. Most people will spend their entire lives avoiding. And most people will never finish one thing they start. Not one. They quit at boredom. They quit at discouragement. And they quit because of somebody else's opinion. I don't quit. And if you're in my den, you don't get to either. And I'm speaking that with my chest this morning. So take a deep breath with me. Slow. Inhale and hold and exhale. Good. And let me set this tone clean because today's talk, this one's going to hit different, especially for the women in this room who came in curious and stayed because something in them recognized something in me. This morning is about discipline, yes. About receipts, yes. About showing the world and yourself the truth of your consistency. But beneath that, there's something else humming, something warm, something sharp, something magnetic. And I'm going to speak it plainly. Some of you don't even know why you keep coming back to these lives. Welcome in, hippie mama. Let me know where you are joining me from today. Some of you don't even know why you keep coming back to these lives, but you feel something here. There's something you don't feel in the rest of your feed. You feel the intensity, the honesty, and the calm confidence. The I've been through fire and I don't shake anymore energy. And that's not performance. That's discipline. The receipts. And that's history. Jojo, welcome in. And we're going to talk about all of it today. The truth, the grit, the legacy, and the moments that may be dangerous in the right way. And the identity that makes you want to know more. Because discipline is receipt. And the most honest ones that you'll ever have. It's the evidence that you showed up. And not the evidence that the world clapped. It's the evidence that you honored you. And when people ask me why I'm consistent, and why I'm calm, and why I'm fiery, and why I speak the way that I do speak, I tell them this. Because long before TikTok, long before YouTube, long before the studio, I learned to keep my promises to myself. Not because it was easy, because it was necessary. And let me pull you into something real for a second. I walked into this studio this morning, rested, fed, and clear. And the moment that I sat down, I felt that shift in my chest, that alignment and that click. That's identity. And that's discipline. And that's years of wiring my body to respond to truth over emotion. Some of you need to get honest about this. Your life already shows you what you're disciplined about. You just haven't been looking at the receipts. Some of you are disciplined in fear, disciplined in chaos, disciplined in self-doubt, disciplined in disappearing. And you practice those things long enough that they feel natural. But in this then, we practice something else. Discipline in showing up. Discipline in speaking truth. Discipline in finishing. and discipline and identity. Discipline and rising even when nobody notices yet. And that's why wolves follow wolves. And that's why some of the women in this room feel that pull in their chest. Because women can sense discipline. And women can sense consistency. Welcome in, Connor. Welcome in, Global. There's a difference between being loud and being real. And women know the difference instantly. Listen, I'm not here to scream at you. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. I'm not here to impress any of you. I'm here to tell the truth about my life and how it looks the way it looks today and why yours can shift faster than you think if you build the right receipts. You want to know the real reason that I stay calm and why I stay steady and why I stay precise with my words and why I don't fold when people push? Because I've lived through things that should have broken me, and instead they trained me. But we'll get into all of that in the middle, where I'm going to talk to you about 14-year-old me, 5-hour training sessions, elite Florida tennis camps, Bollettieri, Saddlebrook, and the coach I trained with longer than anyone, Nunez. And you're going to feel the shift when we go there. But for now, just breathe. Because I want to explain something that matters. Consistency is the most romantic thing a person can ever offer. Think about that. Anyone can whisper sweet words. Anyone can promise you the world. Anyone can get you excited. But consistency and showing up and finishing what they start, following through, that is rare. And that's intimate. And that is magnetic. What's up, Happy? Welcome in. And women especially feel that. They feel consistency the same way that they feel desire. It's deep, it's instinctual, and it's undeniable. And that's why this space works. Because I'm not performing, and I'm not pretending, and I'm not switching up depending on who's watching. I show up the same every time, steady and grounded and real. That is the discipline, and this is the receipt. And let's talk about real world receipts, the ones you can see. Over 50 uploads, over 11,000 YouTube views and climbing every day. 2 full seasons of a podcast, a built functional vault, a studio I built piece by piece, a brand system rising in real time. Those are all visible receipts. But the true receipts, those are the ones that I build. And that's what I build to create this whole entire world. And right now, I'm going to break those down to you guys. When I talk about receipts, I'm not talking about numbers first. I'm talking about the kind of evidence that women recognize instinctively. Consistency, presence, follow through, heat with control, depth with direction, intensity without chaos. Women can feel when a person has endured and not survived. Endured. It's in your tone, your pauses, your eyes, your pacing, and your choices. And when I speak these in the mornings, I know exactly what happens. Some of you lean forward, and some of you breathe deeper, and some of you feel that subtle pull, the one that you can't quite explain. And it's not attraction, it's recognition. You recognize the discipline. You recognize the fight. You recognize the softness I don't hand out freely. And you recognize the emotional fluency. And you recognize the scars underneath the strength. And that's what makes people stay. That's what makes women think, who the hell is this woman and why do I feel this? And that's why the vault exists. It's not as a product, as a continuation of this energy. The deeper work, the emotional architecture, the blueprint, the reflection in the fire. But before I get ahead of myself, let's stay in this moment. Receipts. Isaac, Lee, welcome in. You guys want proof? Here it is. I didn't wake up one day with a studio. I didn't wake up with a podcast. I didn't wake up with a brand. I didn't wake up with YouTube momentum. I didn't wake up with Vault members. I literally built every piece one disciplined morning at a time. Some mornings like this, and some darker, some louder, and some quiet, and some lonely, and some powerful, but I kept showing up. And that is the receipt. Not the final result, the day-to-day decision behind it all. And women feel that. People feel that. And the world feels that. And this morning, we're going all the way in. Let me take you somewhere real for a minute. Not the polished version, not the Instagram version, not the everything is fine version. I want to talk about the receipts I built long before any of you knew my name. Because discipline didn't start in this studio. It didn't start with a camera. It didn't start with my voice going out across platforms. It started in the dark. It started when nobody clapped. And it started when nobody came to save me. And it started when the world told me I should have broken. And I didn't. And some of you know this part already. But today I'm going to go deeper. I wasn't raised in a world that made success easy. I wasn't handed stability. I didn't grow up with people protecting my potential. I didn't have a family system that said, hey, you're going to be somebody someday. I had noise. I had survival. I had chaos. And eventually, I had foster care. And I don't say that lightly. And I don't say that for sympathy. I say that because it created one of the hardest, sharpest receipts of my life. I learned early that nobody was coming to save my ass. Nobody. If I rise, it's because I pushed. In that environment, you grow up quick. You learn people fast. And you listen between the lines. You scan a room in seconds. And you read energy before you read words. Women feel that about me instantly. They feel the depth. They feel the sensitivity under the strength. They feel the awareness. And they feel that I've seen more than I say energy. And that's not trauma. It's intuition. Sharpened by survival. Let me pull you into one moment. In foster care, staff members would watch us like they were studying wildlife. Trying to predict which kid would explode, and which one would fold, and which one would turn into a version of their environment. But one staff member saw something different in me. He was a tennis coach, a real one. He knew discipline, he knew precision, he knew potential when it's hiding behind bruises and guilt and grit. He watched me move one day, the way I planted my feet, the way I measured distance, the way I controlled power without losing control. And he looked at me like he was seeing a ghost of who I could have been if life had been kinder. He said, you don't realize it, but you move like an athlete who never lost her edge. And I remember thinking, how does he know? How does he see that? Because before foster care, before the chaos, and before everything fell apart, I was an elite athlete. And most people don't know that about me. And most people meet me now and they think that my discipline comes from personality and not training. But my discipline was forged at 14 years old. 5-hour training days, 5 days a week, under elite coaches in Florida. And the coach I trained with the longest, the one who drilled precision in my bones, who trained my endurance and my focus and my drive, was Nunez. And let me tell you something about being trained by a man like Nunez at 14. You grow up different. You learn that your body can do more than you fear. You learn that your mind quits before your muscle ever will. And you learn that discipline is a love language, the toughest and the truest one you'll ever receive. And when he put me on the court, it wasn't playtime. It wasn't good job, sweetie. It was precision, it was repetition, it was excellence, and it was structure. 5-hour sessions, drills until my legs shook, and serve after serve until my shoulders burned. Running drills until the Florida heat turned my vision blurry. And you know what? I loved it, and I fed off of all of it. Not because it was easy, but because it exposed the difference between wanting it and being willing. And then came the Florida camps, Saddlebrook and Bollettieri, and the places where champions were molded, and the places where talent was sharpened like a blade, and the place where they told me that at 14, if you keep playing like this, you're going to be a top 10 in the world. Imagine hearing that. Imagine being built for that. Imagine being on that trajectory, and then imagine losing it all. Because life hit harder than any opponent on the court. My grandmother ran out of money, and the world fell out from underneath me. And the discipline that I once used for sport became the discipline I needed just to survive. And that's where Soul Plus Systems was born. Not in business, not in content, and not in strategy, but in the fire of lived experience. And women can feel that kind of history in my voice. It's why they stay. It's why they replay. And it's why they say things like, there's something different about you, and I can't put my finger on it. You don't have to put your finger on it. You can feel it. Let me add one more moment from my past, and then we'll tie this back to discipline. When I was in foster care, they picked me, to write a speech representing the entire facility of Palmdale. Kids, staff, and everyone. And they had me deliver it in front of around 200 people, including the mayor. And I stood there, shaky and young, and not supposed to be the leader of anything. And I delivered words that make grown adults go quiet. In that moment, didn't just teach me confidence, it taught me about presence. It taught me that some people are meant to speak, meant to lead, meant to awaken something in others that they forgot that they even had. And that same presence is in me now. And while I sit in this studio and I talk to you all, and for some of you guys watching, especially the women, you feel something in that presence. It's not attraction, it's not crush energy, it's something more dangerous than that. Recognition. Recognition of strength, recognition of depth, and recognition of unspoken tenderness underneath the fire. Recognition of someone who has lived enough life to speak to your scars without even naming them. And let me say this clean for the audience. I'm not directing this towards anybody. I'm not singling. I'm not flirting. I'm simply speaking the truth. And women gravitate towards emotional fluency and consistency and discipline and depth. And I carry all four because life demanded it. And discipline is what saved my ass. Discipline is what built me. And discipline is why I can speak calmly even when telling y'all hard things. Because discipline is the receipt. And now that you know that part of me and where it came from, let's move into this heat, into the heart of the message. Let me pull you right into the center of who I am. Because everything else that you see today, my discipline, my voice, my presence, my control, my pacing, my fire, all of it traces back to one place, a tennis court in the Florida heat. Picture this, I'm 14 years old. I gotta take a sip of water for this because we're in for it on this one. I had long blonde hair. I was almost 100% muscle, and the girly pictures exist out there somewhere. But anyways, 14 years old, the bones are still growing, my mind moving faster than my reality, my heart older than my age. 5-hour training days, 5 days a week, Florida sun melting the edges of my vision, and the sound of balls cutting through air like the bullets. My feet were blistered and my shoulders were aching, and nothing soft and nothing easing and nothing was fucking optional. And the voice that shaped me the most, the one that I trained with longer than anyone, was Nunez. Say his name with respect because he earned it. He didn't coddle me, he didn't flatter me, and he didn't hand me empty praise. He taught me discipline, the way the ocean teaches swimmers, but pushing you deeper than you think you can go and watching you rise anyways. Under him, I learned precision, not good enough technique, but do it again until your body remembers technique, muscle memory. Under him, I learned endurance, and not the survival kind, the sharpened kind, and the kind that turns pain into fuel, and the kind that makes emotion irrelevant. And under him, I learned this truth. Discipline is devotion to your craft, to your future, to your potential, and to yourself. See you over here, YouTube. Appreciate that, guys. Let's keep that energy going. Drop the wolf emoji in the comments below, guys. TikTok, where you guys at? I know you guys feel it. Welcome in, Jamie and Danny. What's up? What's up, YouTube? Zach, welcome in. Welcome in, Zach. Welcome in. That's only the beginning, because Nunez wasn't the only giant in my chapter. So let me take you to Saddlebrook Academy, one of the elite training grounds for rising athletes. And then to Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy. Yeah, Bollettieri. The place where some of the greatest players on earth were forged. I was just a kid, but I wasn't treated like one. I was treated like someone who had a shot. You want to talk about receipts? Try this one. A world-class coach, Andrea Jaeger's coach, looked at me at 14 years old under the blistering Florida sun and said, "If you keep playing like this, you'll be top 10 in the world in women's tennis." Let that shit land. Let that vibrate to y'all's chests. Because, you don't forget words like that. Not when they're spoken by a giant. And not when they're spoken to a kid who had nothing else in her life going right. And not when they awaken a fire in you that you didn't even know had a name. Those were the days when discipline felt like destiny. When repetition felt like devotion. And when sweat felt like scripture. Now listen closely. Because this next line, women feel it the second I say it. I don't fall in love with winning. I fall in love with endurance. Not the quick rush, not the applause, not the highlight reel. I fell in love with the grit, the repetition, quiet hours when nobody was watching. And the way your chest tightens right before you push something through that you didn't think you'd ever survive. And that's why I speak the way I speak now. And that's why my presence hits the way it does. Because I'm not here out of ego. I'm here out of endurance. And endurance leaves a mark. People can hear it in my tone. Women can feel it in the way that I pace my words. There's something in my voice that comes from years of pushing through the kind of silence that rewrites your entire life. But let me pull you deeper. Because that rising star trajectory, that's top 10 in the world path. It didn't get taken from me. It was stolen. It didn't fade. It ended because life hit me in the knees. And my grandmother, the one person holding my world together, ran out of money. Not a little, but completely. And the training stopped and the camps were over. And the dream collapsed in front of me with no dramatic scene. No big goodbye. No crowd to witness it. Just a closing door that I couldn't pry open no matter how hard I fought. And people talk about heartbreak like it only happens in romance. But the first heartbreak of my life was losing the future that I was born for. And that kind of loss stays in your bones. And here's where the story shifts, because the moment that shut door shut and another one opened that was darker, heavier, open, foster care, one day I was an elite athlete and the next I was sleeping in a facility where the world didn't care how talented I was. Oh, and nobody said top 10 in the world anymore. And where nobody cared about my backhand or my footwork, and where the discipline I learned became survival instead of sport. But here's the thing: endurance doesn't disappear when comfort does, it just evolves. All that training, all that repetition, all that structure, and all that fire, it didn't die. It moved into my identity. It showed up in a way that I scanned a room. YouTube, welcome in. In the way that I carried myself, in the way that I refused to break, in the way that my silence became sharper than most people shouting. And that's why, even in foster care, they saw something in me. They chose me out of every kid there to write a speech for 200 people, kids, staff leaders, and the mayor. 14 traumatized and pull out of everything I built, but still standing in front of a room full of adults. Delivering words with a steadiness that didn't make sense for a kid my age. Presence and fire and control and depth. All the things that you see in me now were being shaped back then. And you want to know why women respond to me the way that they do? Why they linger in the live, and why they watch the replays, and why they join the vote, and why they sense more than I can say? Because women recognize when someone has lived through something and carried their softness with them anyways. I'm not hardened, I'm sharpened, and there's a difference. Welcome in, Worm, Star, Pete's hating it, Nathaniel, not TikTok. I see y'all guys. What's up? TikTok up in the house. If you guys feel that energy, hippie mama, you still with me? Let's go, guys. If you guys can feel that energy, drop the wolf emoji in the comments below. Where else are you guys getting this kind of rhythm on your feed? Nowhere. There's nobody else out there like me. If the algorithm keeps showing you my room, then the algorithm didn't make a mistake. Let's go, TikTok. Let's go, YouTube. I see you wolves over there. I see you wolves. I don't rush because nothing real comes from rushing. I don't perform because this isn't performance. This is presence. This is a story. This is memory, and this is mythos, and this is discipline turned into identity. And women feel like they feel that. They feel the heat under the control. They feel the tenderness under the steel. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the love over there. Kiru up in the house. Where are you joining me at from today? They feel the tenderness underneath the steel, and they feel the strength under the quiet. And they feel the fire that I speak from, not at them, but from. And now that you guys know the middle of my story, and now that you've walked through the heat with me, and now that you've felt the breath of my past brushing against your present, let's talk about who I became because of all that. Not the kid on the court, not the girl in foster care, not the teenager reading energy like survival scripture, and not the young woman holding herself together with fire alone. I became someone else entirely. Someone who learned how to take every broken piece and sharpen it into a blade of clarity. And someone who rebuilt their voice from the inside out. Someone who understands exactly why discipline is the most intimate form of self-love there is. Someone who doesn't run from depth, but runs towards it. And that version of me, the one that you're listening to right now, didn't show up by accident. She was carved through endurance, through silence, through repetition, through heartbreak, through rebuilding, and through rising. And here's the truth, most people won't even bother to tell you. When you combine emotional depth with discipline, you become unforgettable. Women feel it instantly, and men respect it even if they can't name it, and the world can't ignore it. I don't need to raise my voice to make an impact. I don't need to posture. I don't need to prove anything. Because presence speaks louder than performance. And because quiet fire burns hotter than loud chaos. And because discipline radiates in every word. Some of you feel it right now. that pull in your chest. That little voice saying there's something different about her. This isn't the usual tick-tock noise. And you're right, it's not. This is soul plus systems. The fire of lived experience combined with the structure of a rebuilt mind. The softness that survived combined with the strategy that emerged from the ashes. The wolf and the woman merged into one identity. Let me explain something really clearly. Soul without systems burns you out. And systems without soul drain you dry. But when you combine the two, you rise. And that's why this brand works. That's why the messaging lands. And that's why you guys keep returning to my space. Because you can feel both sides of me, the fire, the warm, steady, not the kind that destroys, but the kind that transforms. And the structure, calm, grounded, and disciplined, the kind that brings order to chaos. And when I speak about my life, you don't just hear the details, you hear the alchemy, you hear the pattern, and you hear the blueprint. And for some of the women listening right now, you don't just hear the blueprint, you feel it. You feel the fire under the words. You feel the steadiness behind the tone. And you feel the emotional intelligence in each pause. And you feel the lived experience shaping through pace. And that's not an accident. That's deliberate. And that's disciplined. And that's years of truth and refinement and endurance behind the scenes. And let me say something that matters. Something subtle but important. Depth is seductive. Clarity is seductive. Discipline is seductive. Presence is seductive. And that's not in a sexual way. It's in a sovereign way. In a way that wakes up the part of you that's been asleep. The part that wants more. And the part that remembers who you were before life softened you. And the part that wants to rise again. And that's the version of you that I speak to. Not the mask, not the performance, and not the insecurities, and not the fear. I'm speaking to the wolf in you. The version of you that wants discipline, wants structure, wants clarity, and wants truth, wants fire, and wants identity. And that's the version of you that feels pulled toward the space. And that's the version of you that feels seen and not exposed. Seen. Now let me bridge the full arc of this morning. We started with discipline as a receipt. We moved through your own identity. We traveled through the story of who I was and who I became. We cracked open the vault of endurance that shaped my voice. We peel back layers. We walk through fire. And we breathe through truth. And now we land here. Discipline is intimacy with your future. Consistency is devotion to your evolution. And identity is the wolf that rises when the world expects you to kneel. And this is the part that most people never understand. I don't show up because it's easy. I don't show up because of views. I don't show up for applause. I show up because this right here is the clearest, sharpest expression of my purpose. My voice is not decoration, it's direction. My story is an entertainment, it's instruction. And my fire isn't performance, it's presence. And some of you feel that more deeply than others. Those of you whispering, I need more of this, more of her truth, more of this fire, and more of this clarity. And that more that you're feeling, that's where the vault lives. It's not for gossip. It's not for drama. It's not for spectacle. It's for depth. It's for the blueprint, for the identity work, and for the layers beneath the life. For the versions of you waiting to be reclaimed. For the reflections that you're ready to face. And for the systems that will rewrite your entire life. That's not bullshit. Those are facts. The vault isn't something that you just join. It's something that you step into. It's literally something that you claim. And it's something that you let reshape you. Because everything that I speak on these lives, the fire, the discipline, the identity, the wolf, the softness, the sovereignty, all of it, it goes deeper in the vault. So let me close this morning the way I opened it. Most people will never finish one thing that they start. Not because they're weak, but because they tie their discipline to emotion instead of tying it to identity. Not here. Not in this den. Here you rise. Here you finish. And here you remember who you were before the world trained you to dim your fire. And here you build. And here you return to yourself. And you stand tall for a moment and you feel your spine. And you feel your breath. And you feel your presence. This is you. Not the scared version, not the tired version, and not the doubting version. The wolf. The one the world didn't expect to rise, but you did anyway. My morning transmission is complete. Welcome in, PB. I'm about to check out. My morning transmission is complete. Encrypted no more. Wolves don't kneel. Wolves rise. See you guys in the vault.